As I was about to leave, something caught my attention from a distance, a group of Jews, deep in prayer. They were praying on the Temple Mount. For me, this was a truly astonishing sight, something I had never witnessed before. Moved by the moment, I decided to stay and capture this scene, as it felt like a rare and extraordinary occurrence. "Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name," echoed in my mind, as the sacred energy of the place seemed to magnify. Jerusalem, where past and future converge. Jerusalem is one of those rare places where the lines between past, present, and future blur. Walking its ancient streets, you can almost feel the weight of centuries on your shoulders, as though you are treading the same path that prophets, kings, and pilgrims walked long ago. Yet, Jerusalem isn't just a city of the past. It's also a city where the future is believed to unfold according to divine prophecies. The visions and teachings of prophets remain alive here, especially in places like the Temple Mount and the Mount of Olives, which are believed to play central roles in the unfolding of the end times. In this city, the faithful from multiple religions, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, share a common bond of belief in a future that is deeply intertwined with the spiritual history of Jerusalem. The Mount of Olives, for example, is not just a hill, it is a deeply symbolic place with ties to messianic prophecies. It is considered the spot where many pivotal events tied to the ultimate fate of humanity will occur. The Mount of Olives, a place of prophecy. The Mount of Olives has immense significance in both Jewish and Christian eschatology. For the Jewish people, it is believed to be the place where the resurrection of the dead will begin. According to tradition, when the end of days comes, the dead will rise from their graves and make their way toward the Temple Mount, where the long-awaited Third Temple is prophesied to be built. Standing in the vast Jewish cemetery on the Mount of Olives, it's humbling to think about the thousands of years of history that rest here, waiting to be reawakened when the time is right. The Jewish people have long seen this as a sacred resting place because of its proximity to the Temple Mount, believing that those buried here will be among the first to rise when the Messianic era begins. For Christians, the Mount of Olives is also a place of immense spiritual importance. This is where Jesus spent significant moments during his ministry. It was here that he taught his disciples the famous Our Father prayer, also known as the Lord's Prayer, "Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven." The words of this prayer resonate deeply with the Christian belief in the coming of God's kingdom and the eventual fulfillment of divine prophecies. It was also on the Mount of Olives where Jesus retreated with his disciples after the Last Supper, on the eve of his crucifixion. The Garden of Gethsemane, located on the slopes of the Mount of Olives, is where Jesus prayed in anguish before being arrested, fully aware of the sacrifice he was about to make. But perhaps most significantly for Christians, the Mount of Olives is the site of Jesus' ascension to heaven after his resurrection. In the book of Acts, it is written that Jesus ascended into the heavens from this very spot, with his disciples watching. As they stood in awe, two angels appeared and told them that just as they had seen him go, they would one day see him return in the same manner. This moment solidified the belief that Jesus would return to earth at the end of times, descending once again onto the Mount of Olives. This belief is a cornerstone of Christian eschatology, linking the Mount of Olives to the second coming of Christ. The Valley of Judgment, Josaphat and the Cedron Valley. Between the Mount of Olives and the Temple Mount lies a deep, historic valley known as the Cedron Valley, or the Valley of Josaphat in Jewish tradition. In Christian and Jewish eschatology, this valley is the place where, at the end of times, God will judge all of humanity. The name Josaphat itself translates to God will judge, and according to ancient texts, this valley will be the site of the final judgment, where God will decide the fate of all souls. The location of the Cedron Valley, directly between two of the most important sites in Jerusalem, the Mount of Olives and the Temple Mount, gives it a unique place in the geography of eschatological events. Many believe that this valley, because of its critical position, will be the epicenter of the final events described in both the Bible and Jewish prophecy. As I stand here, looking across the valley, I'm struck by the immensity of what this place represents. It's one thing to read about these prophecies in religious texts, but to be here in person, to see the physical space where these prophesied events are supposed to unfold, is something else entirely. The weight of expectation, the centuries of belief, all converge here in this valley, where so many religious traditions believe that the ultimate fate of the world will be determined. The Temple Mount, heart of Jerusalem's spiritual future. At the heart of Jerusalem lies the Temple Mount, an area revered by Jews, Christians, and Muslims alike. For Jews, it is the site of the first and second temples, and it is here that the third temple is prophesied to be built, signaling the arrival of the Messianic age. For Christians, it is a place deeply connected to the life and teachings of Jesus, and for Muslims, it is the location of the Al-Aqsa Mosque and the Dome of the Rock, making it one of the holiest sites in Islam. The significance of the Temple Mount in Jewish tradition is tied to the prophecy of the Third Temple. According to these prophecies, the rebuilding of the temple will signal the beginning of the Messianic era, a time when the world will be restored to peace and harmony under the reign of the Messiah. But how this temple will be rebuilt remains a subject of much debate within Jewish thought. Some believe that the Third Temple must be constructed by human hands, and that the Jewish people have a responsibility to take action and begin the process. Others argue that the temple will descend from heaven, fully constructed and ready for use, as a miraculous act of divine intervention. A third theory suggests that while humans will begin the building process, it will be completed by heavenly forces, symbolizing a collaboration between the divine and the earthly. And yet another theory posits that the temple will come down from the heavens partially built, with humans required to finish the work. The debate over how the Third Temple will be realized is a reflection of the broader tension between human agency and divine will that runs through much of Jewish thought. But whatever the means, the belief in the eventual rebuilding of the temple remains central to Jewish eschatology. As I walk through the area surrounding the Temple Mount, I am constantly reminded of the layers of history, belief, and expectation that have been placed upon this space. For thousands of years, people have looked to this spot as the center of their spiritual universe, and for many, it is still the place where they believe the future of humanity will be decided. An unexpected moment, Jews praying on the Temple Mount. As I neared the Temple Mount, I witnessed something that struck me as highly unusual. A group of Jewish worshippers had gathered to pray on the mount itself. In recent history, it has been rare to see Jews praying openly in this space, as the Temple Mount is a site of immense tension and political sensitivity. While Jews revere the site because of its connection to the ancient temples, they are often restricted from praying there due to the complex religious and political dynamics surrounding the area. Yet, here they were, gathered in prayer, under the watchful eyes of the Israeli police, who were ensuring their safety. It was a powerful moment, to see Jewish people openly praying on the Temple Mount, something that, not long ago, would have been unthinkable. In a way, this moment felt like a small glimpse into the future. Could this be a sign of things to come? Could the barriers that have long kept people from freely worshipping at this site be starting to come down? For many, the Temple Mount remains a place of profound significance, and the sight of Jews praying there might be seen as a step toward the fulfillment of the messianic prophecies that have been foretold for centuries. The Golden Gate and the return of the Messiah. As I continued my journey, I approached the Golden Gate, also known as the Gate of Mercy. This gate, located on the eastern wall of the Old City, is of great significance in both Jewish and Christian traditions. According to Jewish belief, the Messiah will one day enter Jerusalem through this gate, bringing with him the long-awaited redemption. For Christians, this is the gate through which Jesus is believed to have entered the city on Palm Sunday, and many believe that when he returns, he will once again pass through this gate. Today, the Golden Gate is sealed shut, a reminder of the centuries of waiting and expectation that have built up around it. Standing before it, I am struck by the symbolism of a closed gate, waiting to be opened at the right moment. It feels like a metaphor for the prophecies that so many believe are tied to this city, events that are waiting to be unlocked, that will finally set in motion the fulfillment of the ancient promises made to the prophets. In conclusion, Jerusalem is more than just a city, it is a living tapestry of faith, history, and prophecy. From the Mount of Olives, where the dead are said to rise, to the Valley of Josaphat, where the final judgment is believed to occur, to the Temple Mount, where the Third Temple is awaited, this city holds a special place in the hearts of millions. And in moments like seeing Jews praying on the Temple Mount, one cannot help but feel that the prophecies may not be as far off as they once seemed.